Alright, welcome to Phyre Dojo. So today I'm going to clean up my backyard a little bit. So I've been extremely busy this summer, and I've let parts of the backyard kind of just go. And as you can see by the lawn is done. And my son took care of it. Jake, who's behind the camera. Say hi, Jake.
Hi.
Okay. So, but once I noticed that these are horseweeds. Conyza Canadensis is the Latin name. So horseweeds make a great hand drill, and there was a bunch of them that started growing in the backyard. And you know what? I have this terrible habit of, when I see hand drill material growing, I kind of just let it go. But the problem is we live in a HOA, a homeowners association, so I could be penalized and fined for letting this stuff go. And I haven't yet, but today's the day to clean all this up. So the only thing that's really here are horseweeds. There's one goldenrod over there. There's a pilewort here, which we'll get to. But I want to kind of give you an idea of when I collect a horseweed or collect a hand drill spindle material. I just want to show you what I'm looking for. So a lot of me, you're going to be seeing me just cutting stuff down, because I can automatically see already it's too thin or too crooked, or it does not qualify. Like, I could tell by looking at it, it doesn't qualify. So when I get to one that does qualify, I'm going to show you my process for harvesting that. Okay? All right, let's go. Jake, you're just going to keep filming. You're not going to do anything but film. Okay. And we're going to be a while, just so you know. So this is evening primrose, and I did kind of let it go, but here's the problem. Looking down here, this is the only piece we have right here, and it is also too thin. So this is not going to be able to be used for anything, hand drill wise. This was a daisy fleabane, and I did let it go. And you know what? This one is just 3/8 of an inch in diameter, and it's crooked. But I could use some of these pieces here for reloads and stuff. So take the top off. So we're going to save this. So what I do is I go in my kit, and to identify it real quick, I put daisy fleabane on it. I can read that. I don't really need anyone else to read it. Like, I know what it is. And then I would have a container that I would just throw the ones that I save in. So since I'm home, I don't need that container. When we do when we go harvesting for real, This is a, when we do harvesting for real, I'll show you the container that I bring. This was a thistle, which I let go, and I wanted to wait and see what it does. But the problem with this is it's way too thin. That's less than 3/8 of an inch, so I can't use it. So this is a snake root, but I can't use that either. So horseweeds, good, good, good. Okay, so 2 horseweeds. This one here is just right. In fact, since it's a tight fit, I have my clippers. These are Fiskars. These are one of the best. I like the anvil type for collecting, not the bypass clippers. So now this is just under 3/8 of an inch. See, it's still green. It's going to shrink a little bit more. Okay, but I could probably get some pieces out of that. So I'm going to save that. This one, same thing. You can see that it's crooked, so it's not straight enough for me anyway. So I'm going to cut it up here and see what happens with that. I'm going to leave that there. Okay. This goes back in there. What do I have here? A pair of gloves, which I'm going to put on right now. Anyway. So the ones I had last season wore out. So these are brand new. I haven't done any harvesting yet this year. So. Those are good. This one is a really nice size. It's 3/8 of an inch. You can tell. I'm going to cut it at the base. Look how straight. That one's pretty straight. Pretty straight. So I'm going to cut it. I cut it over 2 feet. Over 2 feet. I try to keep my spindles at 24 inches. That's garbage. Just going to get back here for a minute. Nothing here. Some kind of tree. These are too thin. thin. Here I could see this is crooked. Maybe right here I can get a reload, but you know what? It's not worth it to actually have to deal with. Too crooked, too crooked. Too thin, too thin, too thin, too thin. Just barely, but the problem is it's crooked. Let's see if it's crooked. I could probably get some pieces out of it. So I'm just gonna put that on the side. But it's not a hand drill. It's pieces for a hand drill. By the time this shrinks, it's gonna be too thin. It's still green. Alright, so here's a pretty good sized one. The problem is it's crooked. See, there's a bend right here. And then it helicopters at the top, which shows that it's really crooked. But I can get some pieces out of it for reloads. Go over here to my message hall. So this horseweed got damaged, obviously. This base is pretty good. That's ½ an inch at least by the time it shrinks. So I can get a really good plug out of that. A couple plugs here. Thin, excuse me, Jake. Alright, this one. This wouldn't be too bad, but it's crooked. Maybe while it dries, it could be shaped. But it's at least ½ an inch. But when it shrinks, it'll be a little less than ½ an inch, but it's still a little crooked. But I think it's useful for something. And this one. Sometimes horseweed grows with a short stalk and gives off a lot of small branches. This could be a Bojo spindle. That's big enough to be a Bojo spindle when it dries. Or at least some mouth drill reloads. That's at least ½ an inch right there. Way too crooked. Too thin too. It's crooked here. So there's a plug there. There's potentially one here. Short though, maybe 18 inches if I'm lucky. Alright, but it's not a whole complete one. There's at least some plugs in there. That is nice, but too thin, unfortunately. All too thin, no good. This is 1/2 inch at the base, at least. There's a reload there. There's a few reloads here, or a really, really short hand drill here. Okay, so we're gonna put that aside. We're almost done. So this hand drill, Horseweed, right? It's really crooked, but it's to 7/16 at least at the base, which is less than 1/2 inch. Here I could see this is crooked. Maybe right here I can get a reload. But you know what? It's not worth it to actually have to deal with. Too crooked, too crooked. Too thin, too thin. Thin, too thin, too thin. All right, just barely, but the problem is it's crooked. See if it's crooked. I could probably get some pieces out of it. So I'm just gonna put that one aside. But it's not a hand drill. It's pieces for a hand drill. By the time this shrinks, it's gonna be too thin. It's still green. So here's a pretty good sized one. The problem is it's crooked. See, there's a bend right here. And then it helicopters at the top, which shows that it's really, really crooked. But I can get some pieces out of it for reloads. Go over here to my message hall. This horseweed got damaged, obviously. This base is pretty good. That's 1/2 inch at least by the time it shrinks. So I can get a really good plug out of that. A couple plugs here. Put that there. Too thin. Thin. Too thin. Excuse me, Jack. That's this one. This wouldn't be too bad, but it's crooked. Maybe while it dries it could be shaped. But it's at least half an inch. But when it shrinks it'll be a little less than half an inch, but it's still a little crooked. But I think it's useful for something. This one. Sometimes horseweed grows with a short stalk and gives off a lot of small branches. This could be a Bojo spindle. That's big enough to be a Bojo spindle when it dries. Or at least some mouth drill reloads. That's at least half an inch right there. Way too crooked. Too thin too. This one. It's crooked here. So there's a plug there. There's potentially one here. Short though, maybe 18 inches if I'm lucky. Alright, but it's not a whole complete one. There's at least some plugs in there. That is nice, but too thin, unfortunately. All too thin, no good. This is half an inch at the base, at least. There's a reload there. Alright, so what did I get from harvesting in the backyard with those horseweeds? Well, here's what I got. I got two 24-inch good hand drills out of that, really. The rest were really either too bent or the wrong size, or what I do with stalks that really don't make the cut. Okay, so one of my main qualifiers for a hand drill is that it has to be about 24 inches as a start before I start processing it, and I only got two, which are relatively straight and the correct diameter. So, but it was worth it to me. I got about an 18-inch one, which is so I call these firsts, and this I'll call a second because it's short, but it'll be functional later. What I do with all the other ones that are no good, I cut up into reloads, and a reload is the other term for that is a plug. These are all 3 inches. I got a whole bag of them. And I think they're still drying a little bit. So what you do is you leave the bag open so that it can breathe. You don't want to just shut it off. This was the goldenrod, and it wasn't straight. So I got 3 plugs out of that. These are 3/8 of an inch. This was the daisy fleabane. It wasn't straight enough, but I got 3 plugs out of that. And out of the horseweeds, these are really thick. So I would not have chosen these for hand drills. So these are going to end up being mouth drills. because if it's a larger diameter than a hand drill, I would consider it for a mouth drill. And it's straight enough for mouth drill spindles, because if your mouth drill spindle is not straight, it feels like, and the term is kissing a jackhammer, and it's not fun. It really reverberates in your skull. So you only want the straightest of spindles for a mouth drill, if you could help it. So, and that's probably what these are going to end up being after they're, and these are not done being processed either. They're just, they were just sorted. So, all right. And that was my yield from the backyard. So on to the next thing. What I did was I harvested some horseweeds on my way back home from a patient's house down in South Jersey, and I collected quite a bit. So we're going to do that next. All right. You always want to take the tops off before you put things in your car. Okay. You want to have just the lower stalks, if you can help it, because your vehicle will be a mess. But in later videos, I'm going to be showing you what I do to keep my vehicle clean, how to have a very economical, very thorough, very well thought out and planned harvesting. Okay, right down to what I wear. So I've talked about a lot of that in the past, but my son Jake and I are going to show you how it's done, because now I'll have someone to hold the camera, because before he was too young to be doing this with me, but now he's a freshman in college, and he's at home because of the pandemic, and he's been a big help around the house, and he's going to help me with Phyre Dojo, whether he likes it or not. All right, so to start off, if you go to either, your big box store, Walmart, or Michael's, the arts and crafts store, they're going to have one of these. This is called a miter box. It's made of aluminum, and you can cut things on a 45-degree angle. You can cut things square, and a lot of times it comes with the very thin, curved saw. It's almost a knife, how thin it is. And I usually don't like using that, as a matter of fact. I prefer a thicker blade than that, because what happens is, as you're trying to saw, the stalk actually squeezes the blade together and it binds the blade. You could use a hacksaw, but I don't like a hacksaw because it's really heavy. Now, if I'm going to use a saw, I prefer a cross-cut saw with cross-cut teeth. Okay, there's two kinds of saws really: a cross-cut saw and a ripping saw. A ripping saw has bigger teeth, but we're going across the plant stalk, so we want a cross-cut toothed saw, and I'm going to be using this one. Now, I'm going to show you how I do this by hand, since I'm doing it in my house. Normally I would do this in my workshop, and I would have either a scroll saw or a bandsaw, which is a power tool, and I would just quickly run it through. And in later videos, I'm not going to be doing it by hand. I'm going to be doing it in my workshop, and I'm going to be quickly using a power tool to do the cuts I need to do. But I have to tell you, I really enjoy this process. In fact, I look forward to it almost as much as I do to just making fire. So there's a story with that too. All right, so let's get started. All right, so I'm going to begin, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for are what I call firsts. And firsts are they meet 10 specific criteria, which is going to be a separate video to go through those. Now, this one automatically doesn't meet the criteria. It's bent, but one of the things I'm definitely looking for are straightness. Now this one has a really good straight run in here, and what I want to do is find where the first bend is, and that's going to be here, and that's where this is going to get cut. So I take my Sharpie. You should have a Sharpie. Okay. Then, I never normally do it the way that I'm doing it here. Usually everything is done in my workshop, and I have a process for that, but my workshop is a little discombobulated right now. So, take our miter box, right, and we're going to cut it square with our cross-cut saw. Okay. All right, so that's the back end. I want to keep that for later, that specific one. Now what I want to do is from this cut that I just did, I want to measure 24 inches. And I'm going to look down and I'm going to see if that run goes about 24 inches, and it does. And then I'm going to mark it again. Alright, and I'm going to cut that top off. Good, nice, pretty straight 24-inch Horseweed spindle. Alright, I'm going to put that aside. And then I have a burn bucket of pieces that I'm not going to do anything with. And this is too small for reloads, so that's going to go in the burn bucket. This has... So what I'm going to do is I'll do the reloads separate. Right now I'm just going to find my firsts and figure out what else is in there. So this one was really bent, but here it's really thick at the base, and so that's going to make a couple really good reloads. It has some straight sections, but it's not straight enough for a first. So this whole thing is going to be basically a reload section. This one has a pretty bad bend in it. So a lot of this is just going to be reloads. This one is very straight. It's pretty thin though. It's at a minimum 3/8. Now, it's straight pretty much all the way to the bottom. Maybe right there. You know what? I'll risk the bottom. So I'm gonna cut the bottom. Just the end. Flat end. I'm going to measure out 24. I'm going to mark it. I'm going to cut it again. Alright. These are too thin for reloads, so they go in the burn bucket. Okay. And I have another, what's close to a first. Almost 24 inches of a straight line with, that is just thick enough. Okay, so this one is really good. Now, I always want to cut my bottoms while I'm here, cut them flush. Okay. I'm going to measure 24. Or a little over. I always give myself another inch. This is a burr, and I have another good size hand drill. Okay, and this is the process I'm going to do for the rest. This one is really, really thick. This looks like mouth drill material. But there's a bend right here. So I'm going to cut it at the bend. Alright, little change of scenery. I had there was a call out at work and they asked me to come in, so I had to go and do that because, you know, duty calls. Anyway, so I'm not in front of the fireplace anymore, as you can see. So I really enjoy the process of processing spindles and the dirty work. Whenever I'm doing a demonstration, I always say, because really all I'm doing is just lighting something up, whether it's hand drill, bow drill, or fire plow. Really, I just pull what I have out and light a fire. And what I'm telling everybody is that it's what you're not seeing. You're not seeing 95% of everything that needs to be done in order for you to see what I'm about to do, which is just rub the sticks together and make fire, right? So there's a huge part that people in demonstrations never get to see or hardly even comprehend, and that is the harvesting process, the cleaning, the processing, and then there's actually the finishing of creating the actual pieces, the devices, to put the technique and the method together. And I thoroughly enjoy that. I enjoy it so much. There's times when I would just rather be in my workshop, getting my hands dirty, putting stuff together, than sometimes being in front of people and showing how it's done, let alone doing it myself for practice. But there's just, for me, there's something about being in my workshop and just going through the motions of just putting these things together. Now, what that means is for me, since it's such an enjoyable process, the way you set up should also be enjoyable. It should not be a chore, right? So when I'm thinking about, oh, I got to process those hand drills today, that's not a chore for me. That's not work for me, right? That's something I'm really looking forward to. So you want to have a work area Okay, here I have my workshop is a little cluttered right now, so we're not in there. So I have some shelving laid out for some machinery that I'm getting ready to put together. So right now I'm using it as a work table. And I normally don't cut all my spindles, I said this before, by hand. I usually use either a scroll saw, which is what I have here. Okay, and you flip it on, and the blade goes up and down, and then you just cut your... I'm just going to take the end off here. And that's how I get something cut. Now I have my burn bucket here, right? Full of pieces I'm never going to use. They go in the fireplace. And because also you'll find that you want to eliminate the really tedious parts of the process. You want to make it really enjoyable. Okay, so here's an example of the my bento box base case style hand drill, and one of the reasons of how this evolved is that I really hate cutting notches. Like, I despise cutting. Like, once you've cut like a few dozen notches and you get it just right, to me, after a while, that's just a chore. And especially what I found was when I was doing a demonstration, and if I had to cut a notch, I lost the audience, right? I have to get out my stuff. I have to stop what I'm doing. I have to make the cuts right, and that takes minutes and minutes. And the audience is just like waiting for you to see this thing just lit, right? And I realized that I didn't like having to do the notch in front of them as much as they hated having to wait for me to cut the notch, right? And I noticed that when I'm building, I don't find it an enjoyable part of the process. So that's one of the reasons why how this came about. So again, I'm selecting what I call firsts, and they are straight 24-inch spindles. And the reason why they have to be 24 inches is because the flute, or the trough here, which makes this a base case, is just over is 23 inches. Okay, because the base itself is 24 inches. The trough is 23. So I'm going to cut this down, but I want to give myself a little extra room as it fits in there. Okay. To me, that would be a first selection. Okay. So we're picking up where we left off. Now this is supposed to be a really enjoyable process. So how I usually do this is I'm in a comfortable chair with a comfortable height table, right? With everything that I need right here. I have my coffee, all right? You can have tea, you can have whatever it is that you imbibe, okay? And I always have music, all right? I always have music, or I have something playing in the background, because that's how I find this enjoyable. I don't do it in total silence, okay? All right, so what do we have here? We have a whole bunch of reloads. Okay, and what I do is I get a bag and your generic bag, and I write on it the month, so it's October, and the year 2020, what they are. Horseweed, reloads. Sorry, I wasn't looking. Okay. And I take, now these are various sizes, right? So they're between 3/8 and half an inch. So 3/8, 7/16, half an inch. And what I will do is they have to go through another process of being made more cylindrical. I clean them up. The bark comes off. The bumps come off. You can see that on Horseweeds. Horseweeds has the little leaflet branches sticking out. All of those have to come off. And I have a lot of them. I have dozens and dozens. Well, so those are all my reloads. What I also have are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 long pieces. Now these could either be mouth drill spindles or very small bow drill spindles. Okay. Now how tall are these? The shortest one is about 8 inches. The shortest one. Okay. And I have this really tall one here, which is not a first. And that one's over 19 inches. All right. And I cut up the wild lettuce, Canada lettuce. So let's do this. All right, so when you go to the big box store, now I'm going to say you go to Walmart. Walmart in the automotive section, okay, where the bungee cords are in the automotive section, the hardware section, there's mini bungees, okay, in a little container. This is $5 and you get 20 of them. 20 for $5, okay? So, and over the years, I've bought tons and tons of these. I've used them all up, okay? So take them out, and you grab one, right? And you lay this out, catch one side, okay? Bring it over, and then clip it into the other one. Oh. There. And there you go. Here's my long ones. Short spindles. Here's my reloads. So I'll take one of these, keep everything together. Actually, since they're still in the drying process, I'm going to leave that open. Okay. Now, how many firsts did I get? Actually, I got quite a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 24, 25, 24-inch spindles. Okay. So I'll bundle these. Actually, I'm going to separate them in half. Let's do 2 bundles. Get the base together. Make it nice and round. Grab one. And what I do is I grab it with my finger like this. Go around the hook. And go around. And catch it somewhere. Okay. And there you go. I'm going to straighten them out. Because these are going to get put away. These are not going to be used right away. Straighten them out. I catch this with my finger. Hook it. Bring it around. And then hook it. And then we do the top. Hook it with my finger. Hook it, bring it around, and then go around again. And there you go. That's half. Straighten out the bottom. Just like a bunch of arrows. Straighten everything out. Because these are going to be put on the shelf for months and months until something is done with them. So it really hooks. Catch it with your finger, hook it, tighten it, hook it around. Straighten everything out, straighten it out, hook it, hook, tighten, bring it around again. There you go. 29 firsts, 24-inch spindles, then still have to be processed again, because I'm not done, right? So, what else we got? I've got 3 Canada lettuces, or wild lettuces, 24 inches. Okay, so we're going to put those together. Keep these together. Careful, don't break them. Just got them. Oh. Now I'm going to show you something else. Also, while you're at Walmart, you buy key tags. And they're the round ones with the metal ring. Okay. And what you do is, I'm going to write on here, wild lettuce. And I'm also going to write the month, October 2020. And on my last bungee, I'm going to take that tag and I'm going to hook that tag on the bungee. just like that. And then the bungee holds the tag. Okay. So I'll do it with the Horseweeds. Take a tag. I'm going to write October 2020. Flip it over. Horseweeds. You put that on the bungee first if you want. Okay. And we're going to catch that with your finger. Okay. Hook it. Wrap it around. Hook it again. And now it's identified. See that? All right. And I got a small handful of Canada lettuce reloads, just 6 of them. But I'm going to put them in a bag because they're small. So, Canada lettuce or wild lettuce. October 2020 reloads. Right. And I'm gonna, since they're still a little greenish and drying, I'm going to leave the bag open. And there we go. So an important part of finishing up here is the having the mini bungees and the tags and your Sharpie so you can identify stuff. All right. Of course, you'll need bags if you're going to put reloads away somewhere. And I have this one single 19-inch horseweed, right? So on its side, I'm just going to write horse. And I can't mix that up with anything else because nothing else is horse, right? There's horsetail, but I don't have horsetail. This horseweed. All right. All right. So that's what I'm going to do now is just shove these onto my shelf with other hand drills. Hello, welcome to Phyre Dojo. Today I am testing a brand new Neo Prometheus style hand drill set. So this hearth board is made of redwood. Okay, and it's brand new, never been used. We're about to test it right now. This is the bento box base case style, where the spindle goes in the trough, or the flute in woodworking terms, and it's completely safe from damage, the spindle. So as long as it stays in there. It's held in with elastics, as you can see. Alright, so today we're going to be doing prickly lettuce, which is Lactuca cereola. This one happens to be 7/16 of an inch at the base, which, as you can see, is unused. Never been tested. This whole board is unused and about to be tested. And let's see. Let's pick this one right here, right in the middle. So I'm just going to be floating, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of center in a little bit on the coal area, but just be rest assured I'm just floating here. Give me a second while I figure out my technical difficulties here. Alright. So again, there's 3 stages. There's the mating and the warm-up, and there's filling the notch with dust, and then there's the ignition. Okay, so I'm in this stage of mating and warming up. Now, I don't have abrasion yet. Hear the squeaking? And now I have abrasion. You can hear the sound shaking. Hold on a second. I'm gonna just moisten my hands a little bit. Hands are a little dry. If the spindle is dry and your hands are dry, well, then you have no friction. It's starting to get a little smoke. So I'm trying to do a maximum amount of rotations as well as some speed. Just floating, nice and easy. And I'm going to take a run down and just ignite this thing. Okay. And there we go. Well, that looks like to me. Careful. Sorry, the camera lens is backwards. It's hard to... Hold on one sec. Oh, fell backward. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it in. Got a new camera and I'm trying to... There we go, it's flipped. Should probably put that back where it was. So one of the important designs of the base case is you don't lose your coal. It stays in the trough. Okay, well, I'd say that's scientific proof and evidence that this set works. Okay, prickly lettuce on redwood. Alright. And Phyre Dojo is back after a hiatus of being very busy with work and helping my son with his Boy Scout Eagle project, which he has now completed, thankfully. And if you have any questions or comments, I'm at the other end of an email or Facebook or Instagram and all those things. Not Twitter, though. I'm not on Twitter. All right. Let's keep going. So I just got this bandsaw. It's a Delta. And I have a Delta downstairs. And this woodworker is moving out of state. And he didn't want to take it with him. And he thought the money from selling his bandsaw would get him a better one than this one. And Deltas are old. They don't have dust collection. And they can be pretty noisy. But one of the reasons why I got this one is because I can do what's called resawing with it, which means I can turn boards into even thinner boards because it's so high and it has a good amount of width. It's at least a foot high here. So if I had a 1 foot board going straight up and down, I could saw it right down the middle of that board standing up. And so what I'm going to be doing today is I have the Yuccas here. I took the tops off, and because the tops are useless. The tops are basically kindling for your fireplace. And so the reasons why you saw the Horseweeds didn't have any tops on them is because I was collecting them from the side of the road. And when you're on the side of the road, just cut the tops off right there and then and leave them there. And they will, since they had already gone to seed, they're going to reseed the next generation. But when I picked up these Yuccas, it was in an automotive yard, and I asked the guy's permission to take them with me, and I wasn't about to cut the tops off and leave them there as garbage for the guy to take care of. So I just grabbed the entire stock and put it in my Jeep, which of course made a mess, and brought them all home. So you just saw a picture of me standing next to them. They're taller than I am, but I took the tops off, so now they're about the same height as me. And now I'm about to go through these and see which ones are very close to being firsts, and which of the rest are going to be bow drill spindles, mouth drill spindles, and reloads. All right, let's go. Also, since I'm going to be doing dust collection, I'm going to hook up my porta vacuum to the bottom of the bandsaw. And the bandsaw is noisy, the vacuum is noisy, so this video is going to be without sound. Okay, here we go. So, I looked up and the camera was off. Anyway, so my yield from the Yuccas, oh my goodness. I got 16 Bojo spindles. I got 9 mouth drill spindles. And I got 3 24-inch hand drills and a shorter hand drill. This one's about just over 20 inches. So, but it's not 24. Anyway, a lot of them were very crooked. So what I got here is basically a small pail full of reloads that are going to last 3 lifetimes, probably, right? So these are good size Bojo spindles. They're really, really thick too. So at the base. All right, so I'm going to try this again. My workshop is cleared out. I cleared my bench. I pulled out some other yuccas that I was going to process later that were in my inventory. One of these is over 7 feet long. Okay. And some of these are shorter and more crooked. Some of these are more straight and taller, depending on what you get. Now I'm going to try and do it from a better point of view this time. All right. So I'm going to start off with these 3 short ones. Now, as you can see, they grew relatively straight. So what I want to do is get a better look. In the sense that when I look down it, is it truly bend? Does it have a bend? Is it really crooked? Or are where the branches come off, is that just interfering with my sight? So I want to introduce you to my favorite processing knife, and that is a Japanese Kiridashi knife. Kiridashi. And it the back, let me show you the back first. The back is entirely flat. Okay. Just like a Japanese marking knife. A Japanese marking knife is also flat on the back, just like chisels. Chisels are flat on the back, all right? And on a chisel, there is just a bevel, okay? Now, when you're sharpening these, there's also a micro bevel on there as well. So, what we have scientifically found in woodworking over what our ancestors have found over generations and generations is that with metal, the sharpest edge you can come up with is a completely flat back, polished, and with one bevel on the other side coming off of that. So a Kiridashi follows that principle. It's flat in the back. There's one bevel, but this one is on an angle, and so this is for right-handed people. All right. What's really nice about this knife is the flat back sits on the spindle shaft, which leaves it flat, and then when you cut, you know you're cutting along the flat of the spindle. Okay. And it is super, super sharp. It is razor sharp when it's done correctly. So I like to put the flat of the back on the spindle and just carefully remove where the branches come off. Use my thumb for control, and I just go right, just turn the spindle and go right along. Start at one end and go right along. Okay, and I do this for most if not all plant spindles that where their anatomy allows that to happen. Alright, so I'm going to do the rest of these three right now and show you the results. Alright, so having cleaned it up a little bit, you can get a better idea of exactly how straight or not straight they are. Alright. So what would I do here? Well, first I would always cut off the end. Okay. There's a straight spot here that I could take, so because there's a bend. There's that bend goes to this bend, and this whole area is no good. This is too bendy. Well, maybe it can go to here. I would cut it at that bend for a reload. From there, I don't like that. I don't like that. Everything up here, the bends are too close together. I like reloads to be at least 3 inches long, and anything less than that. Also, this has a real twist in it. The way this grew, it's really twisted. I could see it in the growth pattern, the grain pattern. So actually I don't want to be messing with that at all. So I'm going to say there's a reload here, there's a reload here, and there's something there, but it's too short for a Bojo spindle. It's probably a mouth drill spindle right there. Alright, so this one, we always cut the end off. There's a reload here to the bend. You can see it bends to the bend. There's a reload. This is less than 3 to the next bend. So we don't want that. This one has a curve in it. I could probably get it. A reload in there. Question is there a hand drill in here? Well, the top gets really, it's not cylindrical near the top, and I don't like that. So where does it become cylindrical? It gets cylindrical around here. Starting here, so down to here. So I wouldn't really say I can get a hand drill out of this. I wish I could, obviously. Can I get more reloads out of here? Maybe one more to there. but I don't like that. Alright, so this one, obviously we cut the bottom off. This is a pretty bad bend. Can I get 3 inches out of that? I'm going to try. Get 3 inches out of that for a reload. That's a really bad bend right there. So the bend ends here. And how straight is this for a hand drill? Well, again, it's non-cylindrical up here. But where does it become cylindrical? Let's say about there. So I would get rid of all that top. And there's a reload there. And there's a funky reload there. And I don't like this at all. I don't like that. Alright, so I'm going to cut those and show you. I'm going to cut these and show you what I got. So here was my yield. I got 9 3-inch reloads. Okay. This is the waste. This is just going to be used to help start my fireplace. Okay. So what's left? I got this really gnarly crooked yucca here, and I got these really nice 3 long ones. Let's look at those. So I'm going to try and show you what I see. So obviously we'll cut the end off. Okay. Here, I have a 3-inch section here that's fairly straight. That's going to be a reload. As you spin it, you see how straight it is. That section. Okay. Now there's a bend here, okay, and I'm thinking maybe in this, no, probably not, let's just stay away from that. There's a flat section here, right, so there's about 5 inches of a good straight area here. All right. Then there's a bend, and then after this severe bend, there's about 3 inches that's straight in this area right here. And that's a reload. Then there's a bend here, and then there's 3 inches of a straight area down here. So let's see what the yield is. So what did we get? We got 3 3-inch reloads and 1 5-inch, and this is the waste, which goes in my fireplace starter bucket. Alright, let's look at these long ones. So this is very common with yuccas. See these things sticking out of the yucca? Those were insects. Some insects lay eggs inside yucca stalks, and then they emerge. See, here's a Here's an emergence hole here, here, here. And these are casings, exoskeleton casings. I guess they molt when they come out, some of them. So when you bring green yuccas into your house, it's best if they're stored in the garage or somewhere sort of outside and not inside your house, because these insects will be inside your house. And it'll run the entire length of the yucca throughout the stalk. Okay. I think that I can't remember the name. Lepidoptera or something like that is the insect. Anyway. Sometimes these are so riddled with holes that they are just useless internally. So, but I'm gonna need to get a better look once I get inside. So, now for this section here, that's just riddled. You know what? I'm gonna just do away with that. I'm just not even gonna bother. Here I have a 3-inch reload here, up to this bend here. And then there's a bend here. So I have a 3-inch reload there. It would be nice if these were perfectly straight, but they're not. Now here, there's a really, really nice straight section that goes all the way up to, trying to look. Look at this really, really straight section here. This is what you're really looking for. So from this bend to, I'm gonna say, this bend here up to here. I've probably got a mouth drill. And then this is still too thick for hand drill up here. But could I get, it's not straight enough for a Bojo spindle. So they're gonna be reloads. I can get a 4-inch section out of that. And here, this is a pretty straight section here. That could be a mini Bojo. What is that? That's probably 8 inches. That could possibly be a very small Bojo spindle. And then the very last here, I have a reload. Alright, so let's look at this one. Here's some insect holes. Here and here. Alright, so we'll just cut our end off. So we have a reference. Now the other thing is, yuccas make great fire plow pieces, devices. So I wouldn't just be considering this for hand drill, mouth drill, bow drill. I would be considering it for fire plow parts. So right here, this stretch up to this bend here. Where's it bent? Let's see about there. I have a choice really here. This is either, okay, so first of all, it's an inch in diameter, okay? This could either be a very large Bojo spindle, or it could be fire plow parts. Like this especially would be the base, right? Like this, I could take this part here, which is crooked, but it's really thick and very clean. This right here could be a fire plow blade. Maybe we should just do that with these pieces, right? So this is 1, this is 2, right? Here's the blade, here's the base, okay? Now, the rest of this looks fairly straight. What should I do? There's a bend there, which will throw off a Bojo spindle. See, I'm looking for, the bends are always going to throw off your spindles. So you can't have them. There's a bend right in there. You know what? What if I just considered this one just for fire plow only? Alright, so I'm going to cut these at the bends so I get some good long sections. They're not straight enough for spindles. They're only good for reloads. But what if I just save these really thick pieces for fire plow? Alright, so there's a really not so straight. That could be a spindle. Right there. That's really straight. That's 6 inches though. For me, it's a little short. So cut this to the bend there. Cut this to the next bend here. This is a really long piece. I can't get it past the wall. And then our last one, again, really thick base. When you have a really, really thick base with this, with Yucca, consider doing fire plow. So here's an example of a sodal, which is like a giant Yucca from New Mexico. Okay. And this one happens to be 1.5 inches in diameter. All right. These are perfect for learning and practicing fire plow on. But if you can't get that, the thickest Yucca spindles will do perfectly. If they qualify. There's this totally straight section here. I would save this as some kind of spindle because it's so perfectly straight. There's a reload here. Actually, let me just spindle this one too. It's a little oval at the top, which I'm not liking. There's a slight bend there, enough to throw off a spindle, so that's a reload. There's a bend there, so that's a reload. And then it gets, it's damaged here, up here. It's cracked, it's wounded. So we're gonna skip this whole area here. Okay. This is a nice straight section, but it's oval, which tells me this is a fire plow set blade right here, because it's not cylindrical. And the rest up here is really not cylindrical, it's really oval. So I'm probably just gonna get rid of that. Alright, so let's look at the yield. Alright, so here's what we got. We got 27 reloads of various sizes. We got 6 somewhat straight spindles, which should do very nicely. And then we have these ones we marked 1 and 2, which I'm probably going to do a fire plow blade and base with. And these are the small ones from before that we just did. Alright. Alright, so that was a lot for today. So remember, to really enjoy the process of processing. Okay, so remember, you're doing 95% of the stuff that no one is ever actually going to see, and you have to really like doing it. It's not, and for me, like doing this right now, this is not a chore for me. This is, I like being in my workshop and just doing this kind of, it seems monotonous, it seems tedious, right? Like, oh, I have to do this to get to this goal of making a friction fire device. But I enjoy the entire journey, the entire way there. Harvesting, processing, building, igniting. So it's all good. So I'm not sure what I'm doing next week, but hopefully it'll be worthwhile for you to see and get something out of on our long lifetime journey of being a firekeeper. All right, so let's keep going.